Did you know it's a lot harder to stamp on a curve than in a straight line?
We get a lot of questions about that, so we just shot a Facebook Live video on how to do just that, to line them up perfectly around maybe the edge of a circle or the edge of a heart. So again, we shot this live on Facebook. We've edited it here for you. It's great content. Let's go check it out.
I'm Mel McCabe, the project manager here at Beaducation, and this is Lisa Kelly, CEO. And today we're going to be showing you how to stamp on a curve.
Oh, stop. All right, so the tip of the week this week is we have had a lot of people contact us about an issue that I teach in my Say It On Your Wrist class. I'm going to grab this, where if you're stamping on a thin like ring or even a bracelet that ends up being a cuff, and you stamp a letter that's long vertically and maybe thin, like a lowercase L, perfect example, or maybe like the number 1. And if you stamp it too hard, because it does sink in a little easier than the other stamps because it has less detail, if you stamp it too hard, you're actually thinning the metal right at that one spot, and then it makes it weak. And then when you go to bend it, it won't just do like a nice curve, it'll literally go kink. This one little part right here, I stamped, I don't know if you guys can see it really well, I stamped a lowercase L and it went in pretty hard, right? So pretend this is like a 6-inch piece that I'm about to bend into a cuff. You know, you'll come along like normal and use your bracelet bending pliers, but let's pretend that this spot is where you needed to have a more extreme bend. And so you go to like bring it in, and look what had just happened.
Mm-hmm. And I think that could happen with a K or a P, lowercase too, if you're heavy-handed on that longer part.
Yeah, so it's any letter that has like a long vertical part, and you can understand why. Like, look at it from the side. You're thinning the metal right there. So, I mean, what will happen is eventually it'll just break.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution to that is pay close attention to when you're stamping letters like that and where, and maybe stamp them a little bit lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I hope that helps. Also, the other thing that I do sometimes is when if I do have a weak spot like that, I will go and like gently bend that part with my hand. But again, you run the risk of like bumping it and kinking it.
And it breaking later, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be bad news. Okay. So let's talk about stamping on a curve. This is a question we get a lot from people, especially beginners, and it's a great question because it is pretty tricky. So here I've got a couple of circles. These are 22mm aluminum circles and a heart. Let's start first with the heart. Okay, I've got 2 tips for you. Let's move this stuff out of the way. My very first tip is when you are stamping, sometimes what I see people do when they're trying to do it on a curve is they'll hold the letter here and they'll stamp it, and then they'll move it up the curve and stamp it, move it up the curve. That's, I find, really, really hard. Do you find that, Mel?
I agree, yes.
Yeah. So what I like to do is always stamp straight. So if I'm stamping a letter right here, then I will turn it. Someone's asking what kind of metal that is. This is aluminum. So instead of going up on the side like that, I always want to stamp straight. So I'll stamp here and then I'll actually turn my piece and then stamp here and turn my piece and stamp here. So you can either be, like if you have this taped down, you would move the bench block or move the whole situation here.
It's like a little lazy Susan.
Yeah, totally. Or you could turn the piece and keep it so you're always stamping straight. I find that makes a really big difference on getting the letters to line up correctly, and it's a little easier because like going up on the side like this gets awkward and then you're gonna get off.
You're not contorting your hand in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So with something like this, depending on the letter set that you're using, this is a Beaducation original, so I know that I can line up the edge of the stamp with the edge of the metal, and it will stamp the letter perfectly just because of the way that these are manufactured. So that's the way that I do it as far as lining it up if I'm not working with a piece of tape or something to bump up against. So I would line my stamp up like exactly like that with the edge on the edge of the metal. But I just grab a random letter. Let's actually do something. Okay, so let's say I wanted to have the word Lucy right here on the edge. This is a curve, right? So I line it up to me. Here's my L. I'm going to look at not only lining up the edge. Can you see there? The edge of the stamp is right up against the edge of the metal. But not only that, is I watch the impression of the stamp come down. So you can't really see it. I'm trying to show it on camera here. From where I'm standing, I can see it. So it's the reflection. I watch exactly where I want that. I'm going to line that up right there. Actually, I want to come a little higher. And this is squared off to me. And there's my L. Okay? And now, with my U, I'm going to turn this a little bit so I can stay squared off to me. Does that make sense, Mel? And this is a little, it looks crooked because the camera is a little bit sideways so that you guys can see it, but trust me, it's straight. Okay?
And then I think you don't want to go too hard because then you could end up kind of pushing the metal out too far, huh?
Exactly. So you don't want to be too close to the edge because then you'll get a little distortion this way. Remember that you're moving the metal, not removing it. So if you're right on the edge, it's moving the metal out this way, and that's when you get the bumps like this, or you get a cuff, a long straight piece that's kind of curved. This is a 1 pound hammer that I'm using. Okay, and then the Y. So again, I'm not going to like try to kink my hand. I'm going to turn it so that it's straight to me, and I'm standing at an angle like this, so don't be confused. And let's get that Y. Okay, now just a little tippy tip. I can see here that my U is really light. All the rest impressed really well. So I'm just going to come back in with the U. And you can do that, you guys. Just make sure that you are really lining it up well and you can kind of feel it, get it in the groove. I'm kind of closing my eyes and feeling it and get it a little harder.
Wow, that was impressive.
Get it? Impressive?
Yes.
Oh, yes, buddy. Okay, so that's a curve right on the little heart there. Like, wouldn't that be sweet? Put a little hole up here and let it kind of hang on the side.
You can even put a little heart on there.
I put a little heart on there. Let's do it. Let's do it. Here's a little heart. I'm going to put it up in this little corner I like to have.
Yeah. Aw, that's so cute.
So just technique-wise, you notice with the letters, I hit twice, but I know that this heart impresses really well because it's so small and sharp, so I just give one little tap. And that's good timing because Maureen just asked, why do you hit it twice? Is it because of the weight of the hammer? It's just a personal preference. Sometimes I hit one time. I know Taryn, that I co-wrote the book with, hits like 3 or 4 times. It also depends what metal you're impressing into. So aluminum is pretty soft. Where I hit it twice, I've actually tapped it pretty lightly. I could have just, bam, given it one. So it's kind of up to you and your own comfort level and your own strength also. Some people have a hard time getting an impression with just one whack.
I feel like it's like double tying your shoelaces. Like, you know the impression got in there if you did it twice.
Yeah, that's
You know.
true. But like you mentioned before, you could do it too hard. And then...
True, that's true.
Okay, so I'm just going to come back out here. So here's my second tip. First one, just to review, is to turn this as you're working so that especially on a circle, you're always stamping straight, right?
Lazy Susan.
The lazy Susan. We have another question here. It's just popped up. I have a chance to look at it. So she asks, what metal is the hardest to hammer? Well, all metals have different hardnesses. You got to keep that in mind. So where I would say that stainless or brass are hard, they could also be not as, you could have a copper that's even harder. So that's because all metals come in different hardnesses. But generally, stainless is the toughest to stamp into. Aluminum is really soft, as is pewter. So these are great to start with.
I just love them. It just even to finish with.
Yeah, yeah. She loves start and finish. All right, so here, my next tip is using these Impress Art guides. And these just came out, and we really love them. So they have all kinds of different stickers here. This is like a big circle with lines on it, so you can line stuff up. This is a straight one with lines, line your letters up. There's lots of those, as well as circle dividers. Pretty cool. Oh, Jody asked what's under my bench block. You shouldn't put anything underneath. That's correct. But if you watch our video, I say you can't put anything underneath except, with the exception of a sandbag or a bag filled with shot, because that absorbs
Sound.
blow. Yeah, the sound, but it's hard enough that when you impress, it won't bounce back. You don't want to have like a towel under this or a piece of rubber or something, because then your stamp will bounce back. So this helps a lot with the sound. So you can see the difference between like this and this. So that's the main reason I like it. It's not required. It's not going to make your stamping any better.
You're just doing it for them to not hurt their ears.
I'm doing it for you guys and everybody in my office that's trying to get work done. All right, so back to this. So for the circle divider, that's this guy back here. But for stamping on a curve, I like to use these little guys here. And what you do is, if you've watched any of our videos or done some stamping before, you've probably seen where for stamping a straight line, we put a piece of tape and you can bump the bottom of your letters right up against it to get a nice straight impression. But for this, on a circle, it's hard to use a straight piece of tape. Let's see, what should we put on this one, Mel? Ruby, your daughter's names?
Yes.
We'll just cover all the cute little girls in the world. Okay. For this one, you can put a circle right in the middle, and you'll have to adjust the circle to whatever size circle you're stamping on. So like if I was stamping on a smaller circle, I might trim this circle or move. If I was going bigger, they have bigger stickers. I'm going to come in close again. All right, so for this, I've got my R, and I can lay it here and then drag it up till the top of the R bumps against the sticker. And let me see if I can show that to you guys here. So I'll lay it on the metal, scoot it up till it stops. And then they'll all be in a straight line. That is if you've centered your sticker correctly. All right, here we go. Trying to get it centered here. So I'm going to put my R. So there's an example of one whack, just so you guys can see that. And I did a little bit harder. So now again, I still would shift this and go straight rather than trying to move my hand up and do it that way. So turn it, turn the metal, turn the bench block, whatever you want. Where's the B? So that U ended up being a little bit low. I don't think I quite hit it well with the U. I'm trying to get my arms around the camera, it's a little tricky. So what I'm doing here, when you see me like picking it up and moving it, I just want to make sure that I'm really feeling it, because as you saw, the U was a little bit low. Let's see how that works.
Mighty cute.
Yeah, so then when you remove the sticker,
I love it.
the U's a little low, but I'm over it already. The stickers are kind of reusable. If you you can stick them back on its spot, but after a while you'll be able to tell that they lose their
Stickiness.
stickiness.
Stickability.
Claudia's got a question. Let's hear it.
Okay, so on the example that you used for the heart,
Yes.
so the heart, you're stamping sort of on the straight part of the curve. Like, what would you do in the case if I wanted to stamp, you know, on the little top? Would I use some tape, or kind of like how you showed on the circle?
I would use that same, so when I was showing the heart, I should have started up here, but this example I was showing how you line up with the edge and turn it, and line up with the edge and turn it. So this was my first tip of just lining up to the edge and turning it. That could have been a circle or a heart, but you're right, this is sort of straight. It's almost like I cheated, but you can see the L started up on the curve a little bit. Okay. I don't have, it depends on the heart and the curve of the heart. I don't have a sticker that would work with that, but maybe you could take that sticker and stick it like right like that.
Oh yeah, kind of right in the middle in the curve. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But that may not be perfect. So this was my example of, you know, stamping, turning, stamping, turning, stamping, turning.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go over to our design ideas, you can see and hit the stamping, metal stamp jewelry section. You'll see all kinds of samples where we've nested circles together, and we've got name here and a name here and a name here. So it's really cute to do those designs, or on a washer, and you can do a bracelet, that sort of thing. So there's a lot over there, so these tips are really going to help with that.
My two favorite are, we have pewter circles, one where there's a little divot where you can glue a crystal in it and you can stamp all around the crystal, so it could be like a birthstone.
Oh,
and the
yeah,
other
that's
one
cute.
already has a heart on it, and it looks like a little soldered heart in the center. You
Yeah.
can just look up the pewter circles, and then you can stamp names or a saying around the heart, which I think does look really sweet.
Yeah, if you find those products, usually we have a little alternative image that shows you some designs that we've come up with for them.
So anything you would say, so a lot of people are nervous about stamping on curves because they are just getting it down to stamp straight. So it seems like it's so much different, but it actually, you made it look really easy. So
Yeah, I mean, it is more difficult, I ain't gonna lie. You gotta
Right.
practice, but what I would suggest is get a piece of copper or a piece of cheap, we've got this practice that we just throw stamps on all over the place. Find a little blank spot, trace a circle, trace a blank, trace
Good
a
idea.
lipstick container, whatever you have that's circle, and then practice these techniques on that. So you always want to practice before jumping into more expensive piece like sterling or something. So it's going to be like anything else. Just give it some practice and you'll come up with your own tips and your own comfort level for
And
that.
I think with the washers too, if you're going to go with sterling, grab the same size in copper or aluminum, because for me, I feel like it's really testing out the weight to make sure I don't push the metal on the bottom so that it ends up kind of warping the circle. You'll kind
Yeah.
of get your feel, and then you'll be ready for your sterling.
Yeah, I always recommend getting, whatever you're working in, like you said, get it in copper or whatever, because we're talking about like 60 cents, right?
Definitely.
That's much better to practice and perhaps waste 60 cents, although it's not a waste if you learn something. Better than
$7 on a sterling
Yeah.
something or other.
much
Yeah.
better than that. I want to point out too that we've started a private Facebook group. It's called Beaducation.com, Metal Stamping and Beyond. It's our community over there, and I monitor that group. I know a lot of you guys that are watching right now are in that group, so give it a little thumbs up, tell people how much you love the group. But there's so much sharing and cool stuff going on in there. And if you want to join, just go over there, hit join. You got to answer 3 get to know you questions. If you don't answer the questions, we can't let you in. That's our way of keeping out the spammers and the trolls. But it's a great community, and we are sharing so much stuff over there. It's really, really
It's
fun.
really fun.
Yeah, it's
I
cool to
agree.
be able to connect like really directly with the customers. Like I've got 1,500 new best friends. It's really
And new
cool.
ideas, too,
And
for
I go
fun.
live over there too. So does Mel, and we teach other things over there. But go check it out. Join the group if you want. Cool.
That's it.
I think that's all we have to say today. Quick
Thanks for
and
joining us.
easy. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
See you next week.